Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is the one and only Jason Hunt. And before we got on our broadcast, I was complimenting Jason Hunt about how articulate he is. And if you have not listened to any of my previous interviews with Jason Hunt, I highly encourage you to do so because he shares a huge amount of wisdom that will empower you to be healthier naturally. Now, Jason Hunt is a meditation teacher and a true old soul. And you can find out more about Jason Hunt and his wonderful work at his website, waterprana.net. Welcome, Jason Hunt.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a joy and a pleasure to be here again. And thank you for that glorious introduction.
Yes. And so for our audience, I encourage you to listen to my interviews with Jason Hunt about the Merkaba and also about the Enneagram. So if you want to learn more about the Merkaba and the Enneagram, please look up Jason Hunt interview with Catherine Carrigan about the Merkaba and a second interview about the Enneagram. Now, today we're going to be talking about Shungite. So, Jason Hunt, did I even pronounce that correctly?
You're right on. Yes, yes, Catherine. Perfect. Shungite.
So, Jason Hunt, for our audience, what exactly is Shungite?
Well, scientifically, it is a stone, and I'm showing this to your viewers, but of course, those who are listening can't quite see, so I'll describe it. It's a carbonaceous stone. It comes from the Shunga Valley in Russia, in Siberia, quite actually. So it is endemic to that area, and that's why it's how it got its name, Shungite. It's carbonaceous, as I mentioned. So bear with me here, but most of the planet, the crust of the planet that we're on, 90% of it is silica, or like quartz or glass, or silica combinations, silicates, they call them. But most of the other 10% is carbonates. So these are like calcium carbonate, like we find in our bones, or like we find in caves, limestone is calcium carbonate, and beautiful stalactites and beautiful crystals. So again, 90% silicates, probably about 10% carbonates. And then there's occasionally we'll have organic matter that has decayed and become fossilized or transformed somehow. That's what shungite is. So it is, that's why it's carbonaceous. It's 90% carbon, I've seen 90 to 98% carbon. It's a very specific form of carbon in that it has highly complex carbon molecules, what are called C60, C70, and C72. These are highly complex carbon formations. The C60 is called a buckyball, named for Buckminster Fuller. And they're, because they're complex carbon molecules, they do things that other carbon molecules don't do. We'll get to that in a little bit. The other bit about shungite of what its composition is that it, I've heard this is hearsay, but again, this is supposedly based on science, that it contains nearly every element on the periodic table in trace amounts. So it's not only carbon in that it can combine with all those elements, just like silica can combine with all those elements to form life, I dare say, but also that it just has them in its structure is pretty remarkable. So it's, again, very carbonaceous in its molecular structure. There are two different kinds of shungite. And again, for your viewers, this will be easy to see. One of them is shiny, One of them is not. They're both kind of a blackish color. The one that's shiny has a little silvery tone to it. This is called noble shungite or elite shungite or type 1 shungite, all those different names. The darker stuff is called shungite type 2 or just regular shungite. Um, I like to use this for, it's a little less brittle than this. So we'll get into the uses a little bit later in this interview.
So, Jason Hunt, many of us in natural healing develop an affinity for different kinds of healing crystals. And
Yes.
today, for your interview, I chose to wear pink tourmaline around my neck, and I'm wearing pink opal, actually pink moonstone. These are pink moonstone earrings. And when you study about the different qualities, the different healing qualities of different crystals, you'll discover that there's a whole language and of crystals. And in addition, the different crystals have different healing properties. My three favorite crystals, it's hard to narrow it down.
I understand.
Yes, definitely hard to narrow it down. Moldavite, which accelerates your spiritual growth, and Herkimer diamond, which comes from Herkimer, New York.
Yes.
Yes, so Herkimer diamond, and then Krenite, which really helps you to feel a deep sense of peace and calm. So, so again, I'm wearing my pink moonstone and my pink tourmaline, and we're talking about shungite. Now, Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, we all have personal stories about our crystals, and I could tell you all kinds of stories about how I developed my affinity for these crystals I mentioned. How did you get interested as a meditation teacher in the healing properties of shungite?
That's a very interesting question. And for a long time, many years, I thought that I was the one that was doing it. And it seems now, from my point of view, at this point in the path, that it chose me. And I don't exactly, I don't know why, but it's as if the Shungite Angel or overlighting spirit, the Shungite Deva, whatever you want to call it, said, "Hey, Jason," it's like whispering to me, "Check this out," and so I found out about it probably over a decade ago, and it was one of those stones. I also have the affinity for stones, so I understand the tourmaline. Tourmaline is my birthstone. Tourmaline can come in every single color depending on what impurities it's combining with. I
Mhm.
mean, it takes quote unquote impurities and makes them into beauty and gloriously at that. I love Moldavite and Herkimer diamond. I've been to Herkimer, New York several times. I haven't been to the Czech Republic for the Moldavite yet, but Czech Republic's in this body's blood, as well as Libyan gold tektite or the Libyan desert glass. That's another one that I found that's a counterpart to the Moldavite. Moldavite seems, for me, I know this is a Shungite interview, but we're going off a little bit here. The Moldavite to me seems like a direct line to the Pleiades. And the Pleiades, we see them as 8 little stars out there, but it's a vast, vast area. It's the solar plexus of the universe. And generally speaking, it's a school, and it's if you want to go someplace in the universe, it's like the super highway. You almost always go through the Pleiades. So as you mentioned, it accelerates, Moldavite accelerates our spiritual growth and transformation. The Libyan gold tektite seems to me to be like a switchboard to the galaxy and even beyond. So I'll just throw that out there a little bit. Bringing it back to Earth, that's what Shungite does. Shungite is extremely grounding. It very much allows us to bring our fields and our energy back towards our center, back to a grounded, stable, standing place. From yoga, samasthiti, people standing. It's a basic posture of just standing and being balanced, being aligned, and being present. So for me, Shungite is huge in that aspect. I fear that I've diverged from the question, so if you could get me back on track.
Oh, good. So what I was pointing out is that those of us in natural healing tend to develop affinity for certain stones. So for example, I love pink tourmaline when I want to open my heart, right? So it's pink tourmaline is very balancing for your heart, very nurturing for the heart. And all the crystals have different healing properties. Paradoxically, recently, I was doing a medical intuitive reading with someone who suffers from terrible migraines, migraine headaches. And she spends maybe 10 or 12 hours a day on the computer, which many of us do. And one of the remedies that I recommended was that she put shungite next to her computer. And you are nodding your head in agreement.
Yes.
So, how does shungite protect us from electromagnetic frequencies?
This is very interesting, Catherine. The the Russians knew about shungite a long time. Early 1700s, it became popular knowledge, shall we say. So the Russian military in the 1980s was using it to, again, this is hearsay. I haven't been in the military. I haven't been to Russia. They were using it to shield their tanks and electrical equipment, warfare equipment from a nuclear blast. So
Mm,
uh,
wow.
that says something about its properties. After the Cold War, sort of settled down and it wasn't as desperate a situation, shall we say, it seems like they allowed the rest of the world to learn about Shungite. So it just being in its presence, just having it on your body, like wearing a pendant or having a piece in your pocket, will protect you from electromagnetic fields, like on your cell phone or on your computer. It will protect from electromagnetic fields, like that are running through our house, the Wi-Fi, the router, um, microwave fields. A lot of us have heard about how the microwave radiation will come out of your microwave oven, and it's not so good for you. Again, wearing shungite, having a piece of shungite on you will protect you from that. It also, because it's largely about carbon, we can put it in our water, and once again, because we're mostly water, we're about 70% water, though science calls us carbon-based beings, we're much more water. If you can put the shungite in your water, it becomes part of your blood. And it becomes, once again, we haven't talked about these complex carbon molecules, but it's very, very beneficial to us. I'll put it that way.
Okay, so let's go back to some basic questions. What makes shungite different from other rocks?
Mainly in its makeup, the carbonaceous makeup, but also the fact that for instance, you can take coal out of the ground, which is largely carbonaceous, but it doesn't protect us from the electromagnetic fields or the microwave radiation, or perhaps even the nuclear radiation. Coal, you might be able to put it into your water, but it doesn't have the complex carbon molecules, the C60, C70, and C72, that will clean up your water. Um, so it interacts with a lot of different stones. It is one of the stones that I found that doesn't need clearing. So again, for those stone lovers out there, grounding stones like black tourmaline and hematite, I've used those extensively throughout the years. But after a while, they build up an energy and they sort of a residue, and they need to be cleaned and cleared. Shungite doesn't have that property. I've also seen, just a quick bit to throw out there, I've seen occasional bits of shungite that are iridescent, that rainbow reflection of light. Once again, to me, it's kind of like the tourmaline in that it can combine with all these different things and make something beautiful out of it. Um, I guess this is a good place to talk about those carbon molecules. So the C60, C70, and C72 molecules, they're carbon molecules, and they will pull impurities out of your water or out of your body. And what it likes to do is it'll take two different things, and if it can put them together and make it beneficial, it'll do that. If not, it'll just take them and sort of hold on to them and flush them out of your body. So it will take toxins and either produce something beneficial, or if you can't do that, it'll just take them right away. That's a huge, huge step for healing.
Great information. Now, at this point, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author, and we're listening to meditation teacher Jason Hunt of waterprana.net, and he's talking about his favorite crystal, which is Shungite. We'll be right back. Jason Hunt, meditation teacher. So we started this interview and I talked about the crystals that I have a personal affinity for. And we're talking about your favorite crystal, which is Shungite. And I have 31 years in natural healing. I use crystals for many different purposes. How do you use, how do you personally use Shungite?
One of them, I during our break here, I just took a drink of water, and it's in my water jug, um, water glass. Most of the people who use shungite and talk about shungite recommend that it stay in there for about 8 hours. So I put it in overnight and let it stay in there. I don't recommend putting it in a metal jug because it will take the metal out. And as for instance, with a copper water bottle, you want the copper to be in there. So don't use it on something metal. If you, I've seen people who have infused shungite with or put it in a place with colloidal silver, and it will take the colloidal silver right out of the water. And again,
Wow.
yeah, because of the complex carbon molecules, it can't combine that with anything else. So it just becomes sort of a silvery shungite. You know, it has the silver in its molecular structure then. Um,
So Jason Hunt, so for our audience to help clarify, so is a long tradition of using crystals to infuse your water. So
yes.
what you're talking about is putting some shungite rocks, just basic shungite in a glass of water, and you were demonstrating with a glass.
Yes.
And then leaving the shungite in the water for about 8 hours. Do you
Mhm.
do you put it in sunlight? Because many people I know who infuse crystals, who infuse water with crystals, put it in sunlight. Do you put it in sunlight or just leave it on the desk, or what do you actually do?
It's a personal preference. You can put it in shungite or in sunlight. I usually just keep it in my room. Uh, I'm at the point where I can see the sun shining even when it's not,
Mhm.
even on this side of the planet. And there's no place that I can um, say is actually dark. But a lot of people aren't there yet. So if you feel like putting it in the sun, please do so.
Right. Or another technique is to put the crystal in water and leave it overnight to get infused with moonlight, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
another, so sunlight or moonlight.
Yes. And it has an affinity, I would say, with both of those. It is a deep, deep earth connection. So, of course, Mother Earth has a relationship with the moon and also a relationship with the sun. So it's only going to enhance those relationships.
And then also another clarifying question is about the kind of water, because here in Atlanta, I know one of my neighbors had her city water scientifically tested, and it's extremely toxic.
Mhm.
In Atlanta, I drink a good amount of distilled water, And distilled water has very few particles in it. Whenever I have clients who have pain, one of my top recommendations is to drink distilled water because it will pull toxins out of your joints. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, cured his own arthritis by drinking exclusively distilled water. So when you are infusing your water with shungite, what kind of water do you use to put the shungite in?
Personally, I use spring water, and because of where I live here in Western North Carolina, I'm blessed with an amazing, I would say, some of the best water on the planet. Um, I've been to Hawaii, and the spring water in Hawaii is really top notch too. So it's comparable. But I, again, just use spring water. Oh, you can use distilled water. Catherine, one of the cautions I have about distilled water is exactly what you said. It's basically H2O with no additives whatsoever. But we do need minerals. So I've found this is 20, 30 years ago when I was drinking distilled water.
Yeah.
After about 4 or 5 years, I need to remineralize my body. So I
Yes.
take some added minerals, the trace minerals, and add those for about a year, and then you're good for a while.
Yeah, and as a clarifying point, I agree. Usually I'm having people take supplement like a good multi-mineral supplement at the same time that they're drinking distilled water, but the purpose of the distilled water is to pull the toxins out of your joints, right? But and then a really good liquid multi-mineral at night can serve a huge purpose for people.
Yes,
And
you got it.
especially people who have had a history of addiction. So for example, alcohol, uses up minerals. So there's a lot of conditions where people need more minerals. And as a medical intuitive healer, I find that lots of people are severely mineral deficient. If you don't
Yes,
get enough minerals, you can't absorb your water and you tend to be anxious.
you got
So,
it.
okay, but
Yes.
back to shungite. So
Okay.
you put the shungite crystals in spring water, and how long do you let the water sit and infuse?
I will let it sit. This is me personally. I'll let it sit overnight, and what I do is I'll usually let it get down to about here, and then just fill it back up. Now I use shungite 3 weeks out of a month, and then I will hold off on the shungite and do copper. And that's just what I do. That's my routine. But the shungite itself, this is science is saying this. It's removes from water iron, manganese, phenols, chlorine, nitrates and nitrites, free radicals, gets rid of bacteria and microorganisms, gets rid of bad odors and color, turbidity, the settling stuff. And all of that basically transmutes toxins and provides for a healthy environment, an environment that enhances our health. So that's what we're really looking for here. And again, this shungite, it's like Mother Earth just made this remedy available to us for the diseases that we have on the planet right now. The electromagnetic fields, the toxicity of the environment. Um, it's not only physically polluted, but I would say mentally and emotionally as well. So being centered and grounded in our bodies, feeling calm, allowing ourselves to do our inner work, all of this is enhanced and benefited by shungite.
Okay, now I'm going to ask some clarifying questions. So, one of the things that we understand in natural healing is the critical importance of hydration. And, if you're dehydrated, that's going to affect your brain function, your energy, your muscle strength. We could go on. It also affects your blood pressure because if you're dehydrated, your blood pressure goes up. So, and, sadly, unfortunately, as I said, I gave the example of one of my neighbors spent hundreds of dollars to test our city water, and I'm on the same line as her. And our city water is very toxic. And unfortunately, then you get into this whole dilemma because we talk about the problems with plastic water bottles and microplastics that cause so many health problems and pollution in the ocean, right? Uh,
Yes.
and I believe I did a radio show about microplastics. The average American eats the equivalent of one credit card of plastic every week, which is shocking, right?
Yes.
So big picture, we need to be drinking cleaner water. When we turn to plastic water bottles, then we open that can of worms, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So, but the other side, I know when I travel, I absolutely drink, I go to the grocery and buy purified water because I don't trust municipal water in the US, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, and yet then there are people like I have a homeless friend and I give him water in plastic bottles because they don't have running water. So
Mhm.
there's all these dilemmas around the subject of water. So if someone is living in an area where their water is toxic, but they don't have other means of getting pure water, how would you recommend using Shungite to help purify municipal water?
I would get one of those carbon filter things. The name brands don't matter so much. Uh, but like, the pitchers that you put in your refrigerator that purify water and replace, well, I would use the carbon filter first for however 2 or 3 months until it's done. And then I would replace it with Shungite. The Shungite, again, it comes in these different forms. You can get it in chunks, you can get it in spheres. You can get it in little tiny spheres, even for beading. But I find that the type 2 shungite is the best for water purification. And it can come in powdered form, even. So the powder would definitely purify your water. It's going to be a little more expensive, though. That's the
Okay,
only question.
okay. So we're going back and we're talking about how you personally use shungite for healing purposes. So one way is you put your shungite, the opaque version of shungite, in spring water and you let it sit overnight.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
how else do you use some shungite for your personal healing?
Well, I travel a lot for my work. I teach a meditation workshop all over. So when I'm traveling, especially if it's another time zone or country, I will to fight off jet lag and to sort of assimilate and get my body grounded. I'll Wherever I am, once I'm at the destination, I will just sit there, get my shungites out, put them in the palms of my hands, and sit for about 10 minutes. As I'm sitting there, I'm running the energy through my body. And after about 10 minutes, sitting with the shungite, running the energy, there's no jet lag whatsoever. I'm totally tuned and present, and everything's good. So that's a huge way right there. Um, that
So
could Go
So
ahead.
I'm going to again ask a clarifying question. So when you travel to a different time zone, you use Shungite to empower you to overcome jet lag, and you just simply hold the Shungite crystals in your hand and you meditate for about 10 minutes
Yes, and
and
that meditation is flowing or following the flow of the energy in my body.
with holding a Shungite in each hand.
Yep.
Pretty cool. And a lot of people who travel, that's a big issue. I know that when I travel from the East Coast of the US to the UK, it can take me 5 days just to acclimate to the time zone.
Yes, exactly. You got it. So it can be, it really enhances one's ability to be present and to be centered on your body. If I travel to another time zone and I'm tired, and it's the end of the day, my body's going to say that even after 10 minutes of this, I'm just going to say, you need to sleep. So again, rather than having the monkey mind and thinking about all sorts of stuff, it's going to help me sleep as well.
Okay, so how else do you use Shungite for your personal healing?
Um, Many times when I'm feeling out of sorts, when I'm feeling pulled off center, I will get out my Shungites and do what I just said, hang out with it for about 10 minutes and just sort of come back to my center, pull all of my energy back in and be here now and be loved now. Another way of saying this is to find my connection to God within
Mm.
and, source, great spirit, the universe, whatever words you want to call it, but remembering that connection within and then allowing myself to express it in the world. Expressing that love, expressing that oneness, expressing that, geez, Jason, it's really time to go to sleep. So I need to, do that if it is, or get a meal if it is, whatever it is. Many times we're not quite grounded because we're so much in our heads. So if we can tune in with our body, that's a huge way to get grounded. And Shungite definitely helps with this.
Now, as you know, as a meditation teacher, many people with anxiety and also monkey mind,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you deal with that every day as a meditation teacher.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, anxiety and monkey mind, one of their core issues is not being grounded. So, how does Shungite ground us?
This is really interesting, Catherine. There's only a few books out there about Shungite, but one of the books has some color plates in the middle. It's a book by Regina Martino, if I can give her a plug.
Mhm.
And uh, what they did basically, they doused the person's energy field, and they did these experiments. They did with just no Shungite or anything. Then they doused their field like holding a cell phone. Then they doused their field like holding Shungite and a cell phone, or a laptop and Shungite, or no electronics and just Shungite. The difference between a person just meditating and a person holding Shungite in each hand and meditating, basically because you're you and because we've had a little history about the Merkaba, from my point of view, it almost intuitively tunes you to your Merkaba field.
Mm.
What they found is that a person's electromagnetic field will go from just around their body to about the size of the Leonardo sphere and even out to the larger disk around, just by holding Shungite. So once again, bringing their energies towards their center and allowing them to be grounded allows them to tune into who they truly are beyond the appearance of this physical body, which is temporary. Once again, huge for healing.
Okay, so that sounds like a cheat sheet. It reminds me when I was a little girl and I was learning how to ride a bicycle, I had training wheels, right?
Mhm.
And I
Yes.
mean, I used my training wheels for like a year. It was almost like, why should I give them up? It just makes it so much easier. So it sounds like Shungite's like a training wheel for meditation.
In a lot of ways, it is. That's a great way of putting it. And I will encourage everybody, just as you did, to give up their training wheels eventually. Um, they're crutches. My glasses here, these are crutches. I can see without them, but I can see better with them.
Mhm.
And I might be grounded without Shungite, but if I'm holding on to the Shungite, then it really gets me again grounded, allows my energies to be centered on my body, not someplace out there. So it's really pretty huge. Its impacts are throughout the spectrum of my life.
So we understand that you, as a meditation teacher, are good at meditation. That's why you're a meditation teacher.
Hope so. Yes.
Yeah, one would hope. So when your students hold Shungite, when they're learning to meditate, what do they report to you? What are their self-reported experiences?
There's almost an immediate calming, once again, usually of the monkey mind, which allows them to be present, allows them to tune into their physical body. Again, this disconnection that we have from our physical body and from being present in the moment here and now, I cannot emphasize that enough. There's so many distractions, diversions, life is pulling us off of our center. To actually be centered and grounded and present every moment is huge. And what they usually do to people who are like that, they, the powers that be, in the past is, oh, they'll nail you to a cross or somehow behead you, or burn you at the stake or whatever it is. So we don't have a lot of historical examples of this. The ones that we do, again, are usually quote unquote religious figures or spiritual teachers or something like this. And we tend to think it's over there and they can do that, but we can't. Well, it's absolutely everybody, every human body's, from my point of view, right to be in their body and to be centered on it and to experience life to its fullest. Shungite can only enhance this experience and this journey through life. Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough.
And with that, let's take another break and listen to a commercial sponsor here at UK Health Radio. You're listening to the Natural Healing Show. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author, and we're listening to meditation teacher Jason Hunt talk about the healing powers of Shungite. Jason Hunt, meditation teacher. So you very kindly shared how Shungite can protect us from electromagnetic frequencies. Shungite can purify our water. Shungite can empower us to overcome jet lag. Shungite can help to ground us so we can feel less anxious. Shungite can empower and make our meditation easier. So listening to this, I have a huge crystal collection, and believe it or not, I don't have any Shungite. I can't believe that. I have almost every other crystal you can ask me. Where can people find good quality Shungite?
It is in most crystal stores these days. Um, and you can trust the crystal stores. It is on Amazon as well, and I've actually gotten some good stuff from Amazon, but I've also seen that some people are selling fake Shungite out there. So for me, I like to go to the source. And for me, there's a place in Siberia called, the website is shungitelife.com.
Shungitelife.com? Okay.
Shungitelife.com.
Okay.
And they have all sorts of amazing Shungite products. They have Shungite infused toothbrushes, uh, tons of different pendants and different stones that you can wear. They've got the spheres, they've got pyramids, they've got bases for the spheres. They've got so much stuff, again, because they are the source of it. So you know that you're getting a good product. You know that they're right next to the mine. So it's the real stuff. It's the real deal. It's come right out of there. And I would say, personally, they're good people. I've been dealing with them for, about a decade now. And they're just, I've never had a deal that's gone wrong. Sometimes it takes a little while to get here to the United States from Russia, especially depending on who's in office at the time.
Yeah.
But beyond that, if you have patience and you really want the good stuff, they'll give you a great deal too. So,
Okay. And, we have to bring up, unfortunately, the political situation, because as we all understand, Russia is currently at war with Ukraine. And some of us don't really want to support Russia, but this is right next to the mine, right?
yes. And I would also say it's not, for me, this is my point of view. I don't agree with the Russian government. I might not agree with the Ukrainian government either. I don't know. But the people themselves, that's who I'm connected to. And the Russian people are sterling, amazing people. So are the Ukrainian people. I've had some Ukrainian friends in my life. Uh, One of them, a good friend from high school, and his mother made me a meal probably 25 years ago that is still nourishing me. I
Wow.
mean, yeah. So Ukrainian people, Russian people, I don't care who you are, they've got great hearts. It's the government that I don't trust.
I don't think anyone can argue with you there. So, Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, what changes have you seen in your life since beginning to work with Shungite?
The first one was hearing the Shungite Angel say, "Hey, Jason," and so I started making these things. Um,
And
Shungite,
and
this is
for our audience who can't see what you're,
yes.
yeah.
I'm holding up a selenite rod that has 5 pieces of shungite attached to it. Selenite rod's probably 4 or 5 inches long. And selenite is another stone, one of the 2 stones, shungite being the other one, that don't need clearing. So they don't hold energies very well. They do what they do, and they don't tend to absorb stuff from outside, so they don't need clearing. So a piece like this or any of these others. These are, again, shungite and selenite. I put these by the router in my home. I
Okay.
put them,
You put the selenite and shungite next to your electronic equipment to protect you from the electromagnetic frequencies of Wi-Fi.
yes, or anywhere that there's I call it an electromagnetic knot. Like, if you have an entertainment system and there's a bunch of plugs, put
Mm,
one there. Anytime there's a power strip, I put one there. What I really like to do with these is to I'll put them like on the door jamb of the room or like around the windows. So it's basically shielding the room. And I don't have enough shungite that I can make a shungite room. There are some of those. There's one in a healing room in Paris. There's also a healing room in Russia. Uh,
mm.
but this basically it's tantamount to shielding the room through putting it in various places. So that's a great way to use it. I've Because I've been creative and I love other stones, I've been putting it with other stones too. So this one for the listeners is shungite and amethyst, and it has some kyanite as well. I think these are great for, I call them desktop pieces. Um, this is when you're hanging out by your computer, the amethyst will help keep your mind clear. The kyanite will help you get downloads and information from the universe, exactly what you need. And the shungite helps you be present and ground it all and put it into a nice package and hand it to other people. So I've got one of these right by my computer. I've got on my computer here, I have this little copper thing that has shungite beads as well as goldstone beads. So that's a whole electromagnetic thing there as well, as well as the just pieces hanging out and
I know
pieces.
that when I've written my books that I've frequently worn kyanite. Kyanite strengthens your fifth chakra, so
Yes,
your throat chakra, so that you can, and it strengthens your clairaudience. So as you say, so you can channel the information that you need.
yep, you
So
got it.
the pieces that you showed, Jason Hunt, are absolutely beautiful. Do you make those to sell to other people?
I do indeed, yes,
And
and I have
where can people purchase those?
these are more personally available. So I've been selling them in my classes pretty much exclusively. Um, I do occasionally send out an email as well, and people can get in contact with me or get in contact with me on my website, waterprana.net, and just inquire. Just send me a message and say, hey, what do you have available right now? So I've got ones that have lapis and green aventurine. This one has some garnet on it. And almost always, whatever combinations I have, I will have shungite in there as well. I was getting some of these things together for the interview today, and I noticed, wow, it's hard to find one that doesn't have shungite on it for me. So this one has some chrysoprase and green apatite and green aventurine. It's got a little citrine crystal point up here, and of course, 3 shungites on there.
So what you're saying is these beautiful healing tools that you've created, people can put at the top of their door sill, and it's
Yes,
going to shield the energy in the room.
yes. And around the windows as well. Definitely keep one by your computer. Definitely keep one on by your router. Any place that there's an electromagnetic knot. So this is one of the experiments that I've made is where the electricity goes into the house, right at the meter on the outside of the house. I've taped shungite around the meter, and it gives the meter readers a little pause, shall we say. But beyond that, it transforms the energy in the house. And it basically, what I found is it makes that house a little vortex of beneficial, healthy energy for that neighborhood. So animals will come back in, plants enhance their growth. It's marvelous beyond what words can express.
So Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, any final thoughts for our audience?
Well, first, I have to thank you again, Catherine, for allowing me to be here. Once again, it's always a pleasure and a joy. And for our audience, once again, things are changing rapidly. There's a lot of chaos out there. So don't be afraid of how things appear. As much as you can, just remember that connection to source and express love, or as I like to say, be here now and be love now.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guest today has been the grounded and highly articulate Jason Hunt, meditation teacher. You can find out more about Jason Hunt and his wonderful work at his website, waterprana.net. And remember, the natural world offers so many wonderful tools that as we learn about them and learn more, like we learn more about Shungite, you can heal yourself naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.